Many of my clients got frustrated with the recent market, with the lack of inventory, lack of choices, and from time to time they would ask me, maybe I should give up on this and just buy land and build the house that I want. So this video is for them and for the general public. This is Nune and Boston area homes. If you've been enjoying my videos and you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, because that shows me that you support all my work that goes into making these videos. There are 10 things that you need to check on before you buy that land. So number one, you definitely want to know exactly what you're getting and what the borders of the land are. The seller might give you a survey that was done 20 years ago and they say this is perfectly good, but you want to order your own survey, because sometimes there are discrepancies, sometimes the land has changed. You want to do a survey, a boundary survey, and by the way, there are many kinds of surveys. You get a surveyor who is licensed in your state, and they come and put this metal pins in the ground. They look at all the information that they can find, the deed, and they put the metal pins in the ground, which are very easy to find even if you don't use the land and it stays unoccupied for another 20 years. And then you say, where is it? You can use a metal detector to find those pins. Let's say the borderline of the land was the creek, and that's what's in the survey. What if the survey was done 30 years ago and the landscape has changed completely, and there were hurricanes and floods and heavy rains, and the creek got wider and wider, and now the land is smaller. So why should you pay more money for the land that is now underwater and the border has changed? That will determine how much you pay for the land. See how important that is? Number two, most important thing is to check on zoning. You call the planning and zoning department and they tell you what the zoning of that property is. And according to that, you can build a single family, a multifamily. Sometimes you think, oh, there are houses around, so it should be residential, but it turns out it's industrial or commercial or whatever. So you want to understand that. The reason the rules are there is to control how the town gets developed and how it grows. So it is very important to understand what the zoning regulations are and what the limitations are of the land. Also note that the zoning can be changed if you and the seller feel strongly about it and the neighbors do not argue with that, and the town thinks that it goes with how they envision the development of the town in that area. You might be able to change the zoning. And if you change the zoning, let's say from a single family to a multifamily use, of course the value of the land goes up with that. Also, you need to understand what the zoning is around the land. Let's say you're buying a land that is surrounded with beautiful trees and you say, oh, this is gorgeous, I'm gonna have the privacy, and then it turns out that the neighborhood zoning is commercial and all the trees are gone and they're building commercial space, office spaces, etc. So it's very important to understand what is in the neighborhood as well. Well, where can you find that land? First of all, reach out to the real estate agent, but if you don't want to do that, check out landwatch.com, but also look in the GIS map. What is GIS map? It stands for Geographical Information Systems. Here I'm on the website of Waltham, Massachusetts, and see how many different choices you have when it comes to GIS maps. You can check out a property in many different ways. Number three, you want to understand the topography and also the flood zones in the area, if there are any flood zones. Topography is how steep it is, if there are hills, if there are valleys. If the land is very steep, it might not be good for a residential neighborhood, but it might be very good for something else. If the property is touching water, it's a lake, ocean, river, you need to understand the setbacks from the water where you can build the house. You can get all the flood zone information for FEMA.gov, where it shows you where the flood zones are, flood plains are. Insurance companies require flood insurance for properties that are in the floodplains. It can get pretty expensive, so you want to make sure to check that before you buy that land. Number four is public utilities. If you're planning to live off the grid, no electricity, no sewer, no water, you're gonna build your own well and your own septic tank, I applaud you for that. But if you're not planning to do that, you need to make sure that you have utilities close by or on your land. That will be ideal. Because bringing in sewer pipes and water pipes and gas lines is very, very expensive. So check on that. Number 5 is deed restrictions. So deed restrictions are going with the land. That means that it affects all the future purchasers of the land. It's there from the beginning, and everyone has to follow the rules. Any deed restrictions are in the deed, so you want to be checking that in the county registry of deeds to make sure that there are no restrictions that you can't live with. Number 6 is buried items. Now you will be surprised, but sometimes there are buried items in the land. Underground oil tanks, that could be old farm equipment, it could be even burial grounds. You remove the remains of the burial ground and move it to somewhere else. It's very expensive. Depending on how you're planning to use the land, you might want to do environmental site assessment. Also, you want to avoid any spills like chemical spills, oil spills. You want to check on those too. That means doing a soil test. So you look at this land, it looks so amazing. There are houses all around it, and you say, well, what can be wrong with this land? Obviously, I can buy and build my house on it, but not so fast. What if there's no way to get access to a public road? How are you going to get out? If you don't, you need to ask a permission from a neighbor's property to have an easement right away to get out to a public road. And that makes it a little more complicated. When you don't have access to a public road, that's called a landlocked property. The other thing you need to find out is, does your hand have an easement for somebody else to get to a public road? Easements are very interesting. It might be utility easements like for water, sewer, and other type of pipes and wires, etc. Or it can be a driveway easement. That means that your neighbor or somebody else has the right of way to use your land to go through and into the public road. So you want to understand that. It's not that you're going to say, no, I'm not buying this land, but it's good to know what you're getting. If you're looking to buy land with some views, let's say mountains, water, ocean, city views, anything like that, you want to make sure that those views are protected, so it's in the deed. When you don't do that, what can happen is you have the views, but somebody built something right in front of you, blocking the views. They plant trees, blocking the view. They build a house, blocking the view. So you want to make sure that that's not happening. I was driving in Newport, Rhode Island on Ocean Drive just a couple of weeks ago on my vacation, and I noticed beautiful houses facing the ocean, and this house was being built, and behind that house was another house that was like 75% blocked from the ocean. And I was thinking, I hope the house behind knew that once another house is built, they're going to lose their water views. They were left with like 25% of the ocean view. That I hope they were not that upset. If you're thinking of buying land, please reach out to me. If I'm not in your state, I can connect you with an agent in your state. Make sure that the air rights and the mineral rights are intact when you're buying that land. So the seller might have sold it separately. You know, the air rights could be sold to, let's say, the house is in the middle of two buildings. If the air rights are sold, somebody in the next building can build a pedestrian crosswalk across the air right above your house. Or it can be that the mineral rights were sold and you find gold in the ground and it's not yours because the mineral rights were sold to somebody else. It belongs to somebody else. So when buying a land, make sure the air rights and mineral rights are yours and only yours. You also want to find out if there is an HOA. So it's possible that there is an HOA on the piece of land, even if it's in the middle of nowhere, that there is a organization that has limitations or some kind of restrictions on how the land can be used. Best way to find out is talk to your neighbors. Sometimes HOA might restrict you from putting a modular home or a kid home on your land, and if that's what you were planning, then you buy the land and you can't use it the way you intended to. Number 10 is a lot of things that attorneys will be checking on: title issues, unpaid taxes, foreclosures. Make sure to hire an attorney to understand all of those things so that you're not surprised when it comes to closing. So what do you think? After hearing all this, do you still want to buy land and build your home? Pretty complicated, right? Did you learn anything? If you learned something new, please like and subscribe and watch my other videos.